Welcome to Ynot on the PCT. Good morning. Just left Cary at Snoqualamie Pass. This is walking under I-90 because got to get past the interstate somehow. I'm like 3 or 4 hours out of Snoqualamie Pass. It's very up and down, but the trail's been much nicer. It's easier to walk. And mostly I've been in the trees, but just got out a little bit. It's nice, although so far it's different than farther north. It's much more kind of greener mountains, not the quite sheer stuff. Kind of up on the ridge here a little bit, but it's all very, very green. It's super humid today, so the with the cloud cover, it's not as hot and there's not that direct sun, so that's really a lot better than yesterday, but it is just really humid. But the forest definitely, the mountains definitely seem different here. It's they're green all the way to the top, and there's not just the jagged peaks. And I wonder if that is connected with the fact that the trail is just a lot faster. They're still up and down. In fact, there's been some of the uphills have been kind of steep, but it's all like this. That's just fast to walk. And then there's other things that, since it's easy to walk, I can easily eat and drink while I'm walking. And so in that way, it's, so far at least, it's been easier, and I've really been covering more miles, which is good because by the time I got started today, it's a little bit late since we had an hour drive. But this is definitely feeling different, and there's a lot less bugs. There's still some bugs around, but a lot nicer than it was. And there's less water too. I'm actually having to start to be more careful about looking where there are water sources and actually planning water more. And I think that's going to be the way for as long as I hike. I think I'm going to be back to being concerned about water. Hopefully I don't get to where I have to start to carry a lot more water, or at least until I get to the desert, if I ever do. Hey, it's 6 o'clock. I have 2.7 or 2.8 to go. Really heavy because I had to fill up with water a mile or two ago for tonight because there's no water for 7 miles. And it was a little spring. It reminded me of NorCal. And then so I have a bunch of weight, and then going up some steep hills and going slower, and just passed a guy that stopped and said, "Are you southbound?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "The PCT is not like this." He said, This is crazy. In most places it's well graded, and this is just so hard." And I said, "Wow, I was just thinking about how much better this was than the last few days." But hopefully things are going to get a little bit better, because this trail has just been it's been really steep. It's steep up and down, but so much easier to just walk on, which is nice, and no blow downs and nothing overgrown, and not many like rocky or narrow sections. So I just have to hold on for another hour or so now with all this weight on my back, and then and then the day will be done. Walking along the ridge here. Pretty cool. You can see out to both sides, so that's one way. I think that's kind of east. Well, I guess I can't totally see out this way. Some places you can see through the ridge this way. So, very green. And there are huckleberries. Let's see. They're really small. So they're not very, it'll take a long time to get very many, but every once in a while I'll stop and just eat a couple because they taste good and give a nice tart taste in my mouth. Good morning, it's Friday. I've been walking for about 3 hours. Almost all of it has been just completely in the trees, but now there's a bit of a view, but as you can see, it's basically forested all the way up the mountain, so it's different than it was. And back here in just a second, be back in kind of just the green tunnel. This is mostly what I've been walking through, stuff like this, and it looks fine, not ugly or anything, but not a lot of views, just kind of green forest. Feeling pretty good. My only kind of challenge right now is my sleeping pad has a hole in it, and thought I patched it when I stopped last. I found a leak and fixed it, but appears there must be two. So tried to find it this morning and couldn't. So I want to spend a bunch of time at the next water and really try to find where it is. The first water is like 12 miles into the day. So, and then there's another good stretch before water. So we're kind of up here on the crest of the mountains. We're not very on the left side. If I bushwhacked up just a quarter of a mile or something, I think I'd be at the top and looking way out to the other side. So up here, especially in getting to be later August, there's not much water, so have to be more careful about that. But it's cool and overcast, so that helps a lot. But basically I'm doing pretty well. I'm starting to think more about the kind of long-term, how do I stay happy and motivated to do this day after day. I realize just that's good, because I hadn't been thinking about that for a while, because every day was so hard, and I think it's starting to get a little easier. So just that I'm thinking about that longer term, I think means that things are good. Anyway, more walking. It's almost 6. I just have like another 20 minutes to walk. Forest most of the day, but stepped out into this. Pretty cool. Hey, it's Saturday. This started a few minutes ago. The sun is just coming up over here. Kind of a nice sunrise. Walking through a little burned area here, but not too far. It's just kind of patchy. Patches of burned and patches of unburned. Pretty morning. Kind of a long ridge walk here. Lake down there. Mountains out there, looking good. Just went over a little ridge, and this is on the other side, looking kind of to the west and south. There's a lot of fog down there in the valleys. And then there is Rainier, looking bigger and bigger. It always looks big, but it's looking mighty, mighty big now. I don't know, this might be kind of about as big as it gets for me. At some point, it seems like I'm gonna get too close to where I'm not gonna have views of it, because I go through just a tiny corner of Rainier National Park. So, and I'm going around Rainier, so obviously not over it. So I don't know if I get a lot closer than this or not. So Sheep Gap, I just came up long trail that you can see just over there. And you go through this gap. Just came up this trail in Mount Rainier National Park. There are people everywhere. It's very pretty. Flowers are very nice. Lots of wildflowers. Lots of mountains. Saturday in August, lots of people. Quick view of this edge of Mount Rainier National Park, where there's actually not that many day hikers. It's kind of nice. It's about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I'm walking by Mount Rainier. I think I've just around the closest that I'll get to it, or maybe that was just a while back. I'm going to be starting to go away from it now. But over the last hill, I don't know if you can see, maybe I can zoom that in. There is Mount Adams in the distance. I'm starting to walk towards Mount Adams. Good morning, it's Sunday, August 21st. I am at about 16 miles to walk to get to White Pass, where Carrie's going to pick me up at 1 o'clock. I'm just coming through the forest, but I just came out in this little meadow with the sun coming up. Very nice, very peaceful and quiet. Thought I'd talk a little bit about what my routine is, starting with the night and the morning. I usually try to stop ideally like 6:30 to 7. It's been as late as just after 8, and earlier, something like last night, it was more like 5:30 because I'd done enough miles. And with today, with how many being picked up today, it's like that worked well. And there was a spot to camp, because right now it can be tricky to find a spot for the tent, because there's so many northbound hikers coming through that a lot of times spots are already taken if you wait too late. And there's just not that many spots. It might be another 2 or 3 or 4 miles, which can then get really late. So it's nice to stop a little earlier, but that problem should really, I think, go away in the next week or so. By the time I leave Washington, I think that'll be done. So I set up my tent. I generally do that first. Then if it's really buggy or late, I'll just dive in the tent and stay in there. But generally the first thing I do is I clean myself up. Carrie says I'm a clean dirt bag, but I like to just take, it's a little loofah, a little tiny thing of like dropper thing, of Dr. Bonner's soap, and I will just use a tiny bit of water and clean myself up. I'll do that, actually I'll even do that in the tent, but then I have to be really careful not to use much water, and it's not as effective. But if it's not that buggy and there's a private spot, I'll actually do it outside and I can use a little more water and clean up. So anyway, I'll clean up. Then I will generally make dinner, and I'll cook just outside the tent and usually eat inside the tent, because most of the places that I'm camping, there really isn't much of a place to have a comfortable place to sit outside. And although if there are other people around and they're out, then I'll stay out and chat, which is nice, but that doesn't happen that often. To make dinner, it just requires boiling some water, which I just pour in the dinner pouch. Let it rehydrate for 10 to 15 minutes, and during that time I'll set up the sleeping pad and get the sleeping bag out, and generally make the smoothie for the next day, because that lets it rehydrate overnight, which feels good. That trail sign is down. I'll eat dinner. By now I'm bringing a dessert bag every night with some cookies and things in it, just to be eating a little bit more, and so I'll eat that after the dinner. Also, if there's any food left from the day, I'll eat that. Just got over that log, and I was as focused as I could be, but I still had a couple of baubles on there, so I'm a little scared, or just a little tiny bit freaked out from that. That was a little tricky, at least for me and my balance. So okay, it's done. Just hey, nice to have that over with. While I'm making and eating dinner, I'll have my headphones on and I'll be watching some video. At first it was Tour de France, but now it's just a couple of different Netflix shows or some documentaries that I have on Amazon Prime, but mostly just the Netflix shows, which would surprise anybody that knows that I don't watch TV ever at home. But out here it kind of keeps me from being lonely, and just gives me some downtime. I'm somewhat cleaned up, or actually just a little less disgusting. And I have food that, good dinners that remind me of Carrie and all the time we put into making them. And I just basically watch some TV and have some time to relax. Then eat my bag of dessert stuff at the end. And then after that, I'll brush my teeth and get to bed. If I got in early, sometimes I'll just kind of watch a little bit more, or read something, and I usually look at the next day on the map and kind of do a quick plan for what the next day looks like. And I'll get to bed. Ideally, I'll get to bed by 9. Latest has been about 10:30. And last night I think I was falling asleep by like 8:20 because I got in early and I was just tired. But try to get it to bed by 9 ideally. Then I had my alarm set for 5 in the morning. I've done that pretty much all through Washington. In Northern California, I had it set for 4:30 so that I could start walking at 5:30, which is basically when it was light enough to walk, because it was so hot I wanted to use every minute I could. But here I've been starting about 6. Which is actually going to have to change soon, because the days are getting a bit shorter. But when I wake up in the morning, I'll make fire up the stove, make some hot water to make coffee and oatmeal, which is basically what I have for breakfast. And while that's cooking, and then while I'm eating that, I'll kind of get stuff ready, stuff the sleeping bag and the pad, and I'll put food for the day in the pockets of the little pouch pockets of the backpack, and kind of get stuff ready. And then when I'm done eating, I'll like brush my teeth and put on sunscreen although I haven't been doing that here because I'm just in the shade so much, I haven't really needed it. I'll just kind of brush my teeth and then pack up and get going. And usually, if I starting at 5, I'm doing all of that by headlamp, and the sun's just kind of coming up, so it takes generally about an hour. This morning, for some reason, it was really quick, and it was a little less than an hour. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but then I'll take the headlamp off by the time I'm starting to walk, or maybe by the time I'm taking the tent down, and it'll be light enough to walk, and I'll get going. And I'll talk about kind of the routine or the rhythm of the day a little bit later.